Welcome back, everybody. Um, I I realized that at the beginning of the conference, I forgot to introduce myself. My name's Forrest Crawford. I'm your master of ceremonies for the weekend. Um, and I have been doing UFO research for 50 years as of this year. So yes, I'm older than I look. So you know. So yeah, I've been around this field for most of my life. And as with just about everybody out there, I would dare say that close to 100% of you have had some kind of a weird experience that has led you to be interested and involved in this phenomenon. Certainly, if you're involved in the phenomenon for 50 years of your life, something big happened to really get into you. And in my case, I saw a flying saucer land whenever I was 10 years old, and got very, very interested in the phenomenon after that. So we are not separate from this phenomenon, and as hard as we have tried over the years as scientists to observe this phenomenon and investigate it without being involved in it. The truth is that we just can't, because we're a part of this phenomenon. Again, that's the same thing that drives us all to be interested in it. Might be real occurrences and real experiences with very strange things. So our next speaker's journey began whenever she was a young child, when she frequently woke up startled at night with huge dark eyes staring into hers, causing her to scream aloud. Although doctors assured her parents that these were just night terrors and that she would outgrow them, as a teen, they continued, and she began describing beings and realms that no one else could see. She pursued studies in psychology, theology, medical, and spiritual studies in an effort to connect to these two worlds that she inhabited as a normal mom, neighbor, wife, and medical assistant, all the while having interactions with beings that are not of this world in her nighttime dream adventures. Her book, From Fear to Love, My Private Journey, describes the path she took from living in terror of these beings to welcoming them as friends. She has spoken at this conference twice, and she has been interviewed all over the world about her book and her experiences. And people from all over the world have consequently shared with her similar experiences, demonstrating the global nature of this phenomenon. So, like I said at the beginning, everyone has a story. All of us do, and it's weird things happen. We're kind of taught that weird things shouldn't happen, so we write them off as coincidence or just active imagination. But what if these strange little events that maybe spark our curiosity, or lead us to believe something strange is going on, are not random, and that they are not the results of a vivid imagination, but that they are something real, and that there are intelligent beings out there, out of our range of sight, that are trying to connect with us? What if these odd, unexplained incidences are an invitation or a glimpse into another world? So, our next speaker, after a lifetime of contact with alien beings, says we are being invited to step into their realm, to learn to discern synchronicities as connections, to ask what if there are other realms, realities, and worlds, not millions of miles away in space, but in other dimensions and realms beyond our human senses right here. So please join me in welcoming Donna Lynn.
Hi, thank you, Forrest. That was a nice introduction. Well, here we are, meeting in a new way, in a new kind of world. But if you think about it, we have been waiting for this time for a very long time. In my lifetime, it began in the 1960s with the hippies talking about the age of Aquarius. And then we had 1987 with the harmonic convergence, which was a global group meditation designed to usher in a new age, an upliftment, a better human consciousness. And then we had the Y2K with the change of the millennium. And then we had 12/21/12 with the end of the Mayan calendar that predicted the end of the world as we know it. And all of these things came and went. I participated in all of them, and it just looked like nothing was really happening. But if you take a look around at the world today, right now, this is not the world we were in a year ago. So things have happened. Finally, they have been very slow, but they are happening, and they have happened, and they're continuing to happen. And we're right now, what we had to do was reach a point in human consciousness where we were ready to ascend to the next level. And that's what took so long. And I realize now that this is the motivation behind why these alien visitor beings have been coming to me, and probably many others, for many years, because they don't experience time the same way we do. And they knew that we were going to be approaching a precipice, a tipping point in our consciousness, but they didn't know when. Nobody knows exactly when. And it depends a lot on the free will of humanity. And so they came to prepare us beginning like in the late 1940s, when a lot of this abductions and the current, cycle of alien experiences began. And even though they made us be afraid, they didn't intend to. That's not their intention. Their intention was to help raise us up into a more loving, giving, benevolent society and away from fear. And over the years, they learned to approach us differently. Back in the 60s, they approached us mostly by coming into our bedroom at night, right, and scaring us and abducting us, paralyzing us. And they learned that wasn't real good. That was only adding to the fear. So now they approach us in some different ways, and I will mention those. But this has been their motivation, is that they want us to ascend and they want to help us. And my main visitor is a 7-foot-tall praying mantis being named Croat. I first met him when I was 8 years old, and I woke up and he was standing at the foot of my bed. And he's always accompanied by 3 of the smaller gray beings, the classic grays. And he's the one who, when I ask questions, he's almost always the one who comes and answers. So when I got invited to speak at this conference, I asked, what do you guys want me to talk about? And immediately, usually it takes time to get a response, but immediately he came to me and whooshed me up out of my body, which is what he often does. I have an out-of-body experience. I go out through the top of my head and we zip out. It's almost like scrolling out of Google Earth, like whoosh, whoosh, whooshing backwards and seeing the Earth going away from us. And then we just stop in space and just hang there in the blackness and the stars. And because I'm out of body, there's no temperature, there's no physical experiences, but we're able to communicate consciousness to consciousness that way. And he did that. And then he showed me the Earth. And, we see Earth, or we think we see Earth the way the NASA pictures are, right? The blue marble, beautiful, beautiful blue swirling white clouds. And that was how it looked until more recent times. And Croat showed me how the aliens are able to view Earth right now. And it's not good. It's like swirling in this dark mass of grays and browns, like a fog or a smoke. And it even has like a smell, like even though I was out of body, I was able to perceive this smell of like raw sewage or maybe kitchen garbage that's been left in the sun too long. It's just like a very negative, heavy, bad feeling. And he said, this is what the Earth is enveloped in right now. And this is how they see it. And he said, it's mostly fear. It's mostly composed of fear. And that's what they're here to help us get past, transmute that fear into better, higher emotions. He said the darkness is constructed of fear, loss, grief, anxiety, panic, depression, and sorrow, all of which makes it hard for these benevolent alien visitors to find us, because they come from a lighter, brighter world. And that is what the Earth is ascending towards. If things go right, we're going to ascend into a lighter, brighter world. But right now, we're fighting a battle with darkness. The Earth is about to raise to a new consciousness, a new realm, but it takes time and it's hard work. kind of think of it as cleaning out an old closet. There's a bunch of stuff in there, and you have to pull it all out and dump it on the floor and sort through it and organize, get rid of the stuff you no longer want, and then clean it and put it back. And so that's kind of where we're at right now. Collective human consciousness garbage has all been pulled out, and it's just a massive chaos right now. When you look around at the world and you see the chaos and the confusion and the fear and the lack of trust and fighting even amongst people who love each other. And we will get past it. We will get past it. But it's time to roll up our sleeves and decide what is worth saving, what needs to go. And then we can ascend. And we do have help to do this. It's why the alien visitors are here. It's why they increased their contact beginning in the late 1940s. And it's been a long while, but they knew that this was coming. And they started reaching out to contact humans decades ago to prepare us for this time, here and now. So what are the buzzwords for 2021? They've been stay safe, safe at home. But thinking back in my life, I never really felt safe at home because I would be awakened in the middle of the night with these big scary faces with the big alien eyes, big black eyes staring at me and paralyzing me and reading my mind. I could feel them probing my mind. And as a 6-year-old, that's pretty terrifying. And then they would suddenly disappear, and all I could come up with was a scream. I couldn't even come up with the words. And sometimes I could jump out of bed and run down the hall to mom and dad's room. But I mean, that's pretty terrifying for a little child. So I called them monsters, and mom called them bad dreams, and the doctors called them night terrors, and assured my parents I would outgrow them. But I never did. I did, however, eventually come to realize these beings never hurt me. You know, they were completely in power over me. They could have killed me, tortured me, eaten me, whatever they wanted to do, but they never harmed me. In fact, they approached me with a kind of gentleness and almost like a parental concern and a kindness. And what really turned for me from the fear to understanding maybe they were coming in love or at least friendship, I used to suffer from extreme migraine headaches, and my being Croat would often appear at my bedside as I was tossing and turning just in such pain. And he would take his foreleg and place it over my forehead, and just instantly the migraine would be gone. And anyone who has migraines know that just doesn't happen. I mean, not even with morphine. It takes sometimes hours or days to get rid of it, but he could instantly relieve it. And it got me thinking too. I used to believe that if there were alien beings out there, they would look on Earth and probably just see us like an ant farm or a school of fish or something, like just this mass of humanity. But when he came to my bedside for no other reason than to relieve my headache, it made me realize they care about us individually. They care about me individually, and they're aware enough that they understand if one of us is suffering, and they can come and help. And healing is a big part of the future they want with us, you know, but first we have to accept that they're here, and we have to accept that they're benevolent, and then they can help us. And by the way, I no longer get migraine headaches. So, but the problem is that fear sells. You know, fear is big in our society right now. We pay to go to horror movies. We pay to go on roller coasters. We like the thrill. Modern man is scared most of the time, scared of monsters, zombies, scared of the dark, scared of strangers, scared of a virus, scared of financial loss, you know, scared of anything that's new or different or unusual. Fear is our culture right now, but we really should be careful what we ask for, because fear is the opposite of love. And love is the message of the benevolent alien visitors. And love is what will lead us out of this mesh we're in right now, this dark chaos, and lead us up into the higher dimensions and a better world. Love is our future if we want it to be a good one. So to get to that point, to be less fearful, for those of us who see aliens or who see unusual things in general, we need to try not to be afraid. So I can show you some of the beings that I see, what I see, although everyone perceives things differently. If you remember a few years ago on the internet, there was a tennis shoe. Some of us saw it as pink and white, and some of us saw it as gray and teal. And the recording that some heard as Yanni and some heard as Laurel. So that shows that even among us humans, we perceive things quite a bit differently. And the alien visitors understand that, and that is why they approach each one of us slightly differently. It's one of the reasons they do this reading of our minds when they stare in our eyes, because they want to know what is the least harmful way they can approach us so that we're more receptive, maybe to what they want to say. So it can help to know what other people are seeing so that you don't think you're crazy if you see something. So these are some of the things I see. First of all, of course, the classic grays. They're about 3 or 4 feet tall. They're 3 fingers on each hand. They always come in groups of 3, it seems like. And I know a lot of people say they're robotic, or they're AI, or they're clones, or they don't have a soul or personality. To me, they very much do. Everyone is unique. I can even tell male from female. I've heard a female laugh. They actually have a sense of humor. And I believe that, well, actually, it was explained to me by Croat. One of the reasons why some people believe they might be robots or something is because they're not particularly friendly to humans. They do their job. They work with us. They don't hurt us. Like when they approach me with Croat, if they need to guide me down the hallway, they'll grab me by my upper arms, and I'll wake up with bruises on my upper arms sometimes. They don't mean to do that. It's just that they have very small, frail bodies, and they need to protect themselves against us brutal humans. But Croat explained to me that they don't really like humans. They see humans as disrespectful. We disrespect one another. We disrespect our planet. We disrespect other life forms. So it's not that they're robots or they don't have a personality. They just don't really like us. And it's their job to interact with us sometimes, so they do it. But that's why sometimes they just don't seem to be very friendly. And then another species, which I've seen, I believed for many, many years that they were fairies. And we do this too. We may be seeing something that it's more easy for us to comprehend the thought that I see fairies than the thought that I see aliens, right? So the very first one in blue, I saw her in the 1970s when I was in high school and believed that was a fairy. The one on the bottom, I saw her one night in my bedroom in 2005. I woke up and saw her floating in the air above me. And when she realized I was awake, she stood up and drew what looked like a doorway in the air with her finger, and then she disappeared through it. And then this top one I saw in 2007, I saw on a spaceship. And that's when it kind of clicked in my head, like, oh, maybe these aren't fairies at all. Maybe these are another form of alien being. But they let me think they were fairies because fairies are more acceptable in my mind. But this top one definitely looks more like an alien. And they're about 3 or 4 inches tall. They do have wings. I've seen them fly. And they haven't really spoken. I've never heard one speak to me. But I have seen them on ships. So they're obviously intelligent and they have jobs. Everyone on a ship has a job which seems to fit whatever their intellect or their abilities fits with them. So, it's possible that fairies are aliens or aliens are fairies, or, it's just possible. I don't really have any answers either. It's all speculation for me. And another being I see, you can see why I would wake up screaming in the middle of the night. This being would sit on my bedside fairly often. And I convinced myself that this was the ghost of one of my grandmothers because they had both passed away before I was born. And she's pure white, and you can see right through her. She appears not to have a bottom half of a body. And so I just convinced myself I was seeing a ghost of a grandmother. And especially because she would appear to me during times when I was emotionally upset, break up with a boyfriend or something. And my most memorable time is when I was 21 years old. I was 9 months pregnant, and I was laying awake really scared about childbirth and about being a mother and the future. And she came and just sat very gently on my bedside and stroked my hair, which is why I thought she was a grandmother figure, not realizing those big black eyes are not quite normal. And it was many years later, just not long ago, that she came to me and finally told me her name. She said it was Atekana, and she spelled it and pronounced it very carefully. And when she speaks her name, I hear it multidimensionally. It's like little tinkling bells or like music, and I hear it all around my head. Like, I'm old enough to remember when we went from mono to stereo and then from stereo to surround sound. But this is just so much more than that. It's multidimensional. I'm not hearing it just with these ears. I'm hearing Atekana, and it's like an echo and like music. I can't even describe it with human terminology. But when she told me her name, she also told me that she's a geneticist and that my entire team are geneticists or working with DNA, the DNA of Earth. And it's true, these beings I have seen almost always together on ships. So I assume they are a team, and they call themselves my team. So apparently I'm part of them. And she did tell me at that time they're interested in my DNA, which I found fascinating. But then I thought, oh, gee, she followed me through my pregnancy. And I know they follow family lineages. So, I mean, I've come to terms with these beings coming to me lifetime, and that they're benevolent and that they're here to help and provide love and understanding of things. But the thought that they are approaching my daughter and now my grandchildren, it's just a little disconcerting because it's weird. It's strange. It's not a typical thing. But I try to make my peace with it because this is part of their job. And this is obviously something I agreed to at some point, because we have free will. And if I had insisted that they leave, they would have. So it's part of some grand experiment. So she's the chief geneticist of my team. And then, of course, there's Croat, my main alien being. He looks pretty much like a praying mantis. The main difference is he has the black alien eyes, big, huge, shiny. He sometimes wears a robe with a high collar, and he looks very regal and magnificent when he does that. And he sometimes wears a hooded robe tied at the waist with a belt. He's always accompanied with 3 alien grays, typical gray beings. And he's very intelligent. He's very personable. He's very patient with my questions and my fears and my misunderstanding. And for many, many years, I asked him and the others, what is your name? What is your name? Where do you come from? And they would never say. All of them would answer, the names are not important. The message is what's important. And then I think they finally realized that as a human, it helps us to have a name. It helps us to understand that's an individual being. They have a name, they have a personality. It just helps us with accepting that they're here and they're real and they're individuals. And so he told me one day that his name was Crote, Crote. And that kind of fit. It didn't seem to really fit his magnificence and his sense of royalty, but I accepted that. And then 2 weeks later, I went to see a movie, a brand new movie coming out called K-Pax, that had Kevin Spacey starring as an alien being named Prot, P-R-O-T. And right when I heard that, it just hit me like a ton of bricks that Crote is probably not his real name. He knew I was going to be seeing this movie in the future with this being named Prot. And it's like they have this sarcastic sense of humor or irony. It's an intelligent kind of humor. It's like he knew when I heard that I would remember and recognize it. And, I felt like I needed a name. And so he gave me one that would make me smile, whether or not that's even his real name. So the more people who interact with alien beings, the more others will. It's like something that will progress, and this will help us. If they're the benevolent ones, I do believe there are negative, evil ones too. But if you focus on the good and the positive and the light and the bright and beneficial things, then you will attract the benevolent ones, the good ones. And because they read us when they look into our eyes, they know our fears, they know pretty much everything about us, and so they know the best way to approach us. And so they work now to minimize the fear. Instead of just showing up in everybody's bedroom in the middle of the night and paralyzing you, they will try to approach each person in the best way that they can to minimize the trauma as much as possible. And here are some of the ways in which they've approached others. When I attended the Eureka Springs UFO conference in 2018, I met a man named Jerry. Now, he had probably dozens of photographs like this that he had taken from his own backyard in Arkansas. And they were different sizes, different shapes, different colors. And he told me I could have this one and I could use it and tell people about it. And it looks pretty real along with the other ones he showed me. They look pretty real to me. I personally have not really seen lights in the sky, but then again, they approach each one differently. And Jerry says he feels a kind of calling. He'll be inside and he'll feel like a calling to go outside and look up at the sky. And when he does, there they are. So he takes pictures of them. And so that's what works for him. And in a similar way, my sister, who lives in Arizona, sees what she calls cloud ships. And it's the same way. It works the same way with her. She'll be inside and she'll feel called out to look up at the sky at a particular spot. And then there will be a cloud ship. And with both Jerry and my sister, it's not just a cloud or it's not just a light. Like you could look at these and say, well, those are lenticular clouds. But she senses that they not only call her out, but when she sees them, she senses a communication and a consciousness coming from them to her. And if they're just ordinary clouds, you don't feel that. You don't have that sense of communication. And often there's just a one singular cloud in the sky when she sees these, which that's a little unusual too. And to me, this one shows absolutely looks like a ship in a cloud, to me anyway. And if you notice the progression, the date progression, the more she believes in them and trusts herself that what she's seeing, April 2017, April 2018, May 2018, July 2018, and then again July 2018. And she's had more since, but to me, this is the most spectacular one that I've seen. And it also points out that they're a little playful. Come out and play when you're in your house. Come out and play. Look at me. They're trying to be a little more lighthearted and fun and playful about everything. Now, when I spoke at the UFO conference in 2018, I mentioned a lady in Germany who wrote to me after she read my book. And she believed she had seen visitors in the past when she was a small child, but she had sent them away. And then she called them back and they came back. But I didn't get the story quite right. So she wrote to me and detailed her experience, and she gave me permission to share it here today. So I'd like to do that. So this is from a lady in Germany. In your last talk, you said that I first wanted them to go away, but that was not the case. My first impression that night was that there was someone in the room, and I first thought someone had broken into my apartment. So that was what scared me. I thought I would have to face a fight or an attack, but then I turned around. I lay in bed with my back to the visitor and was ready to face my fate and fight. The ET had plucked my bedspread to wake me up, but when I turned around, he stood as far away from my bed as he could. So he was leaving space between us so as not to frighten me. And I could clearly see the shape of a gray ET. He was as tall as me, 5 feet 4 inches. When I understood that he was not a thief, but an ET, I was so happy and started to ask him questions. So he came to me doing 3 steps quite fast, and while doing that, he shrank and morphed into a little girl very much looking like Shirley Temple when she was 4 years old or so. Shirley Temple being very non-threatening and happy. I grabbed his left hand with my right hand, and with my left hand I clutched his very thin waist. I was so happy to see an ET in real life. His hands felt bony, with 3 long fingers and silky warm skin. I understood that him being a little girl was just a visual illusion, so I tried to look into the little girl's eyes that seemed to be all black, but she turned away her head so that I could not look into her eyes properly. I have read somewhere that a look into the eyes of a gray can be very shocking to a human, so I assume he did not want to shock me with his black eyes. Meanwhile, I sensed 2 other beings in my bedroom, but only saw kind of swirling shadows. The next thing to protect me from shock or fear was to announce to me that the 2 other beings, the gray called them my little moon friends, would touch my ankles now. I should not be scared. I was told they will not harm or hurt me. They playfully tickled the sole of my foot before I could feel their long fingers go around my ankles. It was not scary. Their hands were a little bit cooler than my skin, but still warm enough not to scare me. Then I lost my consciousness. He woke me up a 3rd time after my 2nd loss of consciousness and went before I had turned around to see him. I assume he did so because they wanted me to remember it. That meeting changed my perspective of what or who I am. When you face a being from another planet, you only see it as an extraterrestrial. You do not know what nationality or faith he is. The same happened with me. I could no longer see myself as a German or a European or white or whatever. I only saw myself as an earthling. All these limiting definitions like white, German, middle class or so was totally obsolete. He represented the aliens. I represented the earthlings. All borders fell. All limitations vanished. What a healing of a perspective or definition is that? Yes, please tell everybody who wants to listen what I experienced. You know, I feel very connected to otherworldly beings with good intents. Since I was 8 years old, I believed in ETs and that they are real and already watching us. So her story is a confirmation that they care enough to search our minds, to find a comfortable and happy memory, and then use that to connect with us. In her case, it was Shirley Temple. Now, I'm not a big fan of Shirley Temple, so they have never come to me in that form. And for me, it's a comfort to know that they know everything about us, but they still love us, even knowing our darkest thoughts. In fact, they love us because of our human failings. That's the extent of their love for us. And at the same time, it can also be why they're so frightening to us. It's pretty overwhelming to know that another being knows your deepest, darkest thoughts, feelings, memories, inclinations. The depth of their love is scary at first, but they're persistent in reminding me how very much they do love us. Not despite our darkness, but because of it. They are here to help lift us into the light. To do that, they need to know the darkness we face. They're fascinated and intrigued by us. Humans are unlike any other being in the universe, so I have been told. And the fact that we do not recognize how amazing we are fascinates them. We live like little frightened children, when in reality we are magnificent beings in their eyes. After hearing the Shirley Temple experience, a lady in Spain realized that an experience she had as a young child was an alien visit. Up until then, it had always confused her what had happened, but it clicked when she heard about the Shirley Temple experience. So she also wrote to me and told me I could use it in my talk. So this is from Hazel in Spain. I was about 4 at the time, and we had a large old Victorian house. Myself and 2 older brothers shared a room. Keith, the oldest, slept to the left of the room under a window, and Terry, 2 years younger, slept under the window on the right side, while I slept by the bedroom door on the opposite side of the room. The room was very large. When Keith would get out of bed to go to junior school, I would get out of my bed and get into his bed, as my bed was by the door and was in a draft, and his bed was always so warm. I would hear him leave for school and just go back to sleep. Just picture a little 4-year-old girl getting in her big brother's bed to snuggle up and keep warm. Mom came in with a cup of tea and placed it on an old kitchen chair that was beside Keith's bed. And as she put the cup of tea down, she said to me, "Now drink it before it gets cold." I felt really special, as it was a fancy cup and saucer which only grown-ups got. I don't know how long had passed, but I eventually woke up, and the cup of tea had gone. I thought Mom might be cross with me for not drinking it. So I made my way downstairs, waiting for, "That's the last time I bring you a cup of tea." So I said, "Sorry, Mommy, I didn't drink the tea." She had not made or brought up to the bedroom a cup of tea. As the years went on, I tried to work out, how did I know what my mom was wearing that morning, which was a big rose print with full skirt on the dress? And how did I know how she had dressed her hair? Mom had never been in our bedroom, yet I saw her and spoke to her. So that was Hazel's story. And again, as confirmation that this is a real experience, Hazel recalls it vividly now, decades later. If it had just been a dream of a little 4-year-old, she would never have remembered it. Hazel now believes this was an alien visitor who appeared as her mom so as not to frighten her. And that memory came up for her after hearing about the experience of the lady in Germany. And that's the beauty of this type of contact. It's one person sharing their experience, which triggers someone else to have a flash of insight or memory and sharing theirs, and so on. Many of us have downloads in our mind that we don't know about yet, but we need a trigger. And when we have that trigger, it will become known to us and we'll remember. So contact this time around is not going to be a massive landing on the White House lawn. It's one-on-one, like what's been happening. One-on-one, sometimes small groups, such as a group who gets together to meditate or pray or to, raise consciousness. But basically it's one-on-one, because they did do mass landings in the past, in the long ago past, and it always ended badly. Usually with the alien visitors being worshipped as gods or misrepresented in some way, or one group of people trying to gain power over another as a result, and they had to leave. This time they want it to last. They want it to be about relationship and empowering each one of us individually, not one group having power over another. They want to be recognized as our brothers and sisters in love, not worshipped as gods. So these are a few of the different and varied ways that we experience the aliens. But how do they see us? We know even some creatures on Earth don't see the way we do. Hawks and eagles can see a mouse in a field from 2 miles up. Mosquitoes see us as infrared heat. So imagine what a visitor from an alien world sees when they look at us. And I've asked Croat, how do they see us? How do they find us? Because as a lifetime contactee, I have moved many times. And I think subconsciously it was to get away, to hide from them. Not anymore. Now I look forward to their visits. But when I was younger, I was trying to get away. And they always found me right away. So once I asked Croat, how do you guys find us? And again, he answered by swooping me up through the top of my head, out of body. And this time I found myself hovering with him over a New York City busy, crowded street full of people bustling around. And I could suddenly see what he saw. He saw each person surrounded with individual colors and patterns. Some are vivid and bright and swirling and fast moving, and others are like dark and closed in and barely moving. So Croat showed me then how he sees me as an individual, alive and glowing, with my aura in constant motion with gently waving tendrils, and they sweep in the etheric field the way a sea anemone waves its tendrils in the tidal currents. The currents we live in are electromagnetic energies. This flow is an etheric field that we may call the united field, the force, God, divine mind, love. Croach showed me when I am in this flow, my aura extends out, tendrils delicately interacting with projections from auras of others, not just people, but all living beings, trees, animals, pets, and wild animals. And my aura also has connections with places I love. There's a particular place in Florida I love, and my aura extends all the way from here in California to that spot in Florida. But if a negative force or danger or violence seems to be coming in, the anemone pulls in its tentacles for self-preservation. Just like when you poke a sea anemone, it pulls in. And unfortunately, this is what most of us look like today. We are tightly closed, withdrawn from the flow, and unreceptive. And the fear of COVID has made it that much worse. In an ideal world, all our auras would be open, in full bloom, multicolored, glowing, sharing electromagnetic energies, healing energies, innate knowledge, emotions. But due to the negativity and fear in today's world, most of us, and this even includes other living beings like trees and birds and our pets and wild animals, our auras are drawn inwards, closed down tightly, like a dog cowering with its tail between its legs. And this is not doing anyone any good. We are meant to let our light shine. Now, the alien beings have been with us from the beginning. They help form our language. And if we pay attention, there is a lot coded into our words. Feeling blue, green with envy, so happy that you're lit up like a Christmas tree. When we love, we open up and show our true colors. These are all real tangible things that they can see, and we would be able to see too if we open ourselves up to the thought that we can. Some people I know can see auras, but not many of us. And in addition to the aura, we have thought forms. Our thoughts encircle our heads like cartoon speech bubbles. And if a person is consumed with fear or negativity, these thought forms are dark and they cloud the aura and they kind of drip down, affecting the whole body. And the visitors have trouble seeing us. But if we have positive, loving thoughts and gratitude, we shine brighter and become more visible to them. And this affects our environment also in a positive way. Happy, loving, generous thought forms are light and bright, like bubbles glistening in the sun. When you blow bubbles and the sun shines on them, they have like a rainbow sheen on them. Well, that's what our thought forms look like when we're in a positive mode and positive frame of mind. And these are what the visitors are looking for. And Croach showed me a person who was praying, and that was just incredible. Their whole being was just glowing with this beautiful brightness that I can't even describe with human words. The aliens' native realm is one of joy, happiness, healing, and radiance. So they literally cannot even see the humans who are smothering themselves in dark thoughts, dark emotions, and dark actions. And they want to lift us out of this and bring us into a realm that is more light and bright and joyful and happy. When Croach showed me this mass of people on the New York City street, he explained that we each have individual colors, patterns, shapes, and movement. They can see this. 7 billion people, and they can spot you. They can spot me. Our colors, auras, and thought patterns change, but we each have a basic appearance that's unique and ours alone. And that's what they see and how they identify each of us. So apparently the closest thing to what we can see, as far as what they see, is our auras. In the 1970s, Kirlian photography was publicly introduced from Russia. And now it's quite common to be able to go and get your aura photographed. There's a lady who does aura photography twice a month at a local metaphysical bookstore near me. She uses a special camera, and I find it to be surprisingly accurate. It shows your chakras, your mood, your personality tendencies. Now, these particular photos round up the aura in an egg shape, but that's not, of course, the true outer shape of your aura, but that's how the camera does it. And to look at these are both me. One was April of 2013, one was January of 2015. To me, they look like a completely different person. So that's why I don't quite understand how the aliens see us, but I think this is kind of a primitive way that we can see how the aliens see us. Of course, their means of seeing us is much more complex than what we are currently able to see. And in 2016, I took my dog Maggie in for an aura photography, and you can see a little bit of the shape of hers, even though it's rounded out to an egg shape, but hers is just pure spiritual energy, the white, bright, with a little bit of lavender or purple, which is highly spiritual. And the lady who does these photographs said that almost all pets and babies that she photographs look like this with their aura. They're light and bright and very spiritual, very close to source. Mine on that day, you can see, was more blue and pink. But when she put us together, Maggie's aura is so high and so spiritual that it overwhelmed mine. And together we looked very spiritual and clear and bright. And there's a little green around both of our heads. And I suspect that's a communication that we have. Those who have pets know, you communicate in some ways. And as I put this together, it just occurred to me, all my life, I have insisted on sleeping with a dog or cat on my bed because in my subconscious mind, I thought that would protect me from the monsters. Although I no longer call them monsters, but most of my life I did. But looking at this and knowing that the aliens are attracted to the lighter, brighter auras, I see that by having a dog or cat on my bed, I was actually attracting them, making myself more visible to them. And another thing, I've always wondered why dogs don't bark when the aliens do come into our room. Is it because, they are hypnotized or paralyzed the way we get paralyzed? But I do believe more and more that rather than coming from distant planets, a lot of these alien beings live very close. They just possibly live in a different dimension or possibly inside the earth or, somehow much closer. And so they overlap with their reality could overlap with our reality a lot of times. And our dogs and cats and other animals can probably sense or see these beings, even though we can't. And so they know that they hang around and they're harmless, and that's why they don't bark. It's like if you're in the kitchen with your dog and your husband is in the other room and he comes in the kitchen to make a sandwich, the dog doesn't bark because you know that your husband has been in the house the whole time. And I do believe that's one theory, that with the aliens being in close dimensions, close contact, that our dogs and cats may be aware of them. So they don't bark when they come into our bedroom because they're just always around. They just come and go. just one of my theories. And anyway, this was my first aura photograph in 2006. This was done in Florida, and where I lived for 18 years and where I had the most contact from alien beings, really a lot more. And it's where I learned to accept them and become friends with them and then actually love them. Now, this, I think, shows the more true aura as to what the alien beings see, because it doesn't round it out to an egg shape. It kind of shows the unique shape of the outside of it. And it also has very bizarre symbols. And this aura photographer told me she had been doing it for a few years and she had never seen symbols like this on an aura photograph before. And this might be part of how the alien beings are able to identify me by these symbols. Maybe we each have our own set of symbols and colors and patterns. And remember, they not only see our physical auras, they see our minds, where our thought forms originate. This is something I wrote in March 1986 after waking up from a visit. Your subconscious is capable of greater things than your conscious mind would accept. So it opens like an unfolding flower as you sleep and receives things that you might find unbelievable to your waking mind. And this is why they approach us usually when we're asleep or possibly meditating, because our conscious mind would say, no, that's not possible. That's not really happening. But when it goes to sleep or quiets down, they're able to approach our subconscious mind, which is more accepting of what it sees and hears. And speaking of our auras, Crote has said, if you could see yourself in all your true glory, with your aura bright, shining, and extended widely, you would probably think you were seeing an alien being. And this is how they see us, through the eyes of love. Now, I have a granddaughter who I believe sees auras. Children are usually much closer to the truth. And then unfortunately, as they grow up and become indoctrinated, they lose that. But thankfully, she has parents who aren't shutting her down. So I hope she was able to continue. But once I was over at their house and she handed me a piece of paper with just pastel colors and a pink heart. And she said, this is you. And I said, oh, thank you. And then she came back a little while later with another page, and the whole page was full with very bright, vivid colors with, reds and greens and blues. And she said, and this is you when you get dressed up. And we had recently all gotten dressed up and gone to an event. And that's when I realized this kid's seeing auras, because day-to-day life, you're just kind of pastel and small and cruising along. But when you're getting ready to go out and you're excited and you're looking forward to it and people you love, your aura brightens up and gets bigger and extends. And she didn't say, this is what you look like. She said, this is you. So, I hope she's able to continue seeing the auras. And I know some people can. So now she's a little older and she has gotten into painting. And as you can see, she does pretty much realistic paintings. This is Mom. This is her brother's guitar. And one day she asked if she could paint me. And I said, sure. She had me pose very specifically with one arm up. And she really looked up at me and down at the painting and dipped the brush in yellow paint and said, I'm going to make your hair long because I know you wish you had longer hair. And then when she was finished, she showed me what I look like. And again, she didn't say, this is what you look like. She said, this is you. And this was when she was 7 years old. And I kind of didn't know what to say. And I said, is this really how you see me? And she looked and she said, oh, wait, I forgot something. And she added 2 fingers to each hand because she had initially only put 3 fingers on each hand, which is how I see my alien friends, although they don't look like this. I don't know what's going on with the flat head and the horn, and we don't talk about aliens to the grandchildren. We want them to have a normal life. We don't tell them, Grammy has contact with alien beings. So this came from her. This wasn't something I told her about or anything. And I'm curious if that's a tattoo on my arm, because she was very specific in asking me to hold up my arm. So I hope when she gets a little older, she'll be able to elaborate. But for now, this is how my granddaughter sees me, apparently. So we've seen how we see aliens, some of us, and how the aliens see us, some of them. And the whole purpose is so that we can get together and we can work together. They want to work with us. And it's all about the future. It's all about preparing for the future and moving from the fear that we're enveloped in right now into a state of love. And that's a form of healing. One of the things that visitors want to be able to help us with is healing on different levels, healing our future, healing our bodies, healing our world. But because we have free will, we must ask and we must set an intention. As an example, I bought this cup at the Ozark Mountain Transformation Conference in 2017. It has a quote from Julia Cannon: "We are great and powerful beings. We just forgot." And I had stuffed it into my kitchen cabinets and forgot. But I decided to pull it out and put it in a prominent place where I would see it every day to remind myself I am a great and powerful being. And a week later, I got an invitation to speak at the UFO conference. I had set an intention. So whether you realize it or not, your thoughts and intentions are helping to design the future. And we do it individually and we do it collectively. The future is not set in stone, and we create our future with our visions, our expectations, and our intentions. And because the alien beings see us multidimensionally, they see our mental body, emotional body, physical body, energy, and spiritual bodies. They can see what needs fixing, because sometimes the root cause of a disease is mental. Sometimes it's physical. Sometimes it's emotional. We don't know. Our doctors don't know yet. But the aliens are willing to work with us to improve on this so that we can be healed more, and to work with our doctors in our medical field. And my friend from Germany who saw the Shirley Temple, she also included a message about healing in her email, and she said I could use it. And I wasn't sure if I was going to include that in my talk, but as I got along and was reaching this conclusion, when Crow told me healing of everything is their intention, I decided to include what she said. So this is what my friend from Germany wrote about healing. Before that experience, I had another healing experience. You can use that as well in your talk if it fits in. It was 2016, and I lay with a very high fever and pneumonia on my sofa. Suddenly I felt a presence and wanted to open my eyes, but I could not do it. I tried very hard, but I could not open my eyes, and I could not move either, but I could hear someone moving around. So I understood I was under control by an alien force. So I sent thoughts to them, telling them I accept that. I felt a vibrating device placed on my upper back. They moved it up and down, and it vibrated so strong I could feel it in my whole body. It was a pleasant feeling. It took only 10 or 15 seconds. I sent them in my thoughts my request for a touch as a proof that this was not a fever dream. And suddenly I could move my arm and stretched it out, the palms of my hand held up. Then I felt a very soft gliding of a little hand with 5 fingers on the palm of my hand. With that touch, I felt an opening movement of my heart chakra. My chakra felt as if it was as large as a big steering wheel, and there was so much love. I remembered I belonged to them. I remembered the love they have for each other. I felt how their society functions. No ego, only togetherness. Oh my, I begged them to take me with them. I felt so lost and so alien here on earth. They left without taking me with them. I felt so homesick. Thank God that feeling went away soon, but I remember the love. What was surprising, that I still needed 14 days to recover from my pneumonia. I thought I would recover much faster. But what was interesting was that I was very fit after those 14 days. At work, I was facing much stress, and everybody around me had a seasonal cold, but I stayed healthy and fit among them. So to put that event into a list, they can come when you ask them. They can use a device to treat and help humans to recover from a disease by enhancing the vibration of the cells. They hear our thoughts, and they have so much love. If you are a starseed, they will not forget you, and they will help you to accomplish your task here. I think those were others as the grays. They were small, with 5 fingers in the hand. What is interesting to me is how I felt as I remembered my home in space. It was as if I was awakening from a trance. I looked around my living room and was shocked to find myself in such a strange environment. It did not feel like home at all. I asked myself, what the hell am I doing here? It felt so wrong. I belonged to that white spaceship with all my people there. There was my place, not this planet Earth. And at the same time, I understood and felt that I am me, I am an earthling, and Earth is my home. That other self, the alien self named Nahima, somehow withdrew again, and the homesickness vanished. But I feel a connection. I love this earth, and I love my family above on that spaceship. I have forgotten all my knowledge from above, but I remember the love. And that is so classic. You go through these amazing experiences and you learn so many things and you see so many things. And then when you wake up, it's gone. It's just, you can't write it down. You can't put it into words, but you remember the love. You remember the compassion and that just unconditional love that they have for each other and for us. They really do love us. It's not a trick. It's not conniving us or anything. It's very real. But because we have free will, we need to set our intentions. We need to set our intentions for a better future, for a beautiful world. Because love is the natural state of the human being. Love is the natural state of all life. Plants and animals respond to love. And love is the motivation behind what the alien visitors are doing with us. According to the visitors, time is fluid. There are waves of time, and we are currently about to crest a giant wave washing over the earth. And will it crash and flow onto the beach with love or with fear? Crote explained that this is a critical time for Earth and for humanity. Every single human and many non-humans who are alive on Earth at this time are of the utmost importance. We are the warriors. We are the ground crew. We came in knowing that the year 2000, the events surrounding 12/21/2012, the age of computers and the moon landing and nuclear weapons was a crucial time, and only the strongest and best are here. At first, I thought he was being sarcastic because they do tend to be sarcastic, and I don't feel like a strong warrior by any stretch of the imagination. But I saw that he was very serious, and it is important that as many of us as possible wake up to this fact. Crote realized I was associating warriors with soldiers and spears and swords, but their definition of warrior is completely different than ours. Their warriors do not carry swords or spears, but are armored with love and compassion. Their bodies are frail compared to ours, but the power of their love is intense and fearless. So Crote says, the way you look at the world is the way the world looks back at you. If you see it filled with fear, violence, anger, hatred, then it will appear that way. But if you make a conscious choice to see the love, happiness, generosity, kindness, goodness, you will see that more and more. We have the free will to choose how we see the world. And it's so important to set your intentions towards positive thoughts and outcomes and make love an intention. This is from one of my journals, dated March 1986, from Atekana. Life is not all as serious as most of you think. It is fun and joyous and meant to be enjoyed to the fullest extent. But most of you insist on putting limitations on yourself and your reality, so you go through your life with tunnel vision. The visitors keep reminding me that life is a game. It's a joyful, fun game. And at this moment in time, the alien beings appear to be having a lot more fun with this game than we are, but it won't always be that way. Things are about to change. We are ascending into a beautiful future, one of more light, one of more love, more joy, better relationships between ourselves and between other beings of the universe, as well as other beings of Earth. We are heading into the next level of this game of life, away from fear and towards love. And that's the end of my talk. So, Forrest, you can take it away.
Thank you, Donna. Um, I, for one, very, very much appreciate your message because there's so much more to this phenomenon than the nuts and bolts stuff that we used to study a long time ago. And for you to share your experiences and the messages that have come from the visitors, I think is so very important for us to truly understand how we're a part of this thing and how we can change going forward.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's for me, it's all about the consciousness more than the actual seeing lights in the sky or something.
Right, right. Yeah, and it's interesting because, and you'll hear this from a few of our other speakers as well, that almost everybody has moved away from traditional nuts and bolts UFO research.
Mm,
It's, landing traces are fun, pieces of metal are really cool, but what's really going on here? I mean, again, it's why are they here?
right,
Why are they interacting with us? What's the
right.
purpose behind it? What's our relationship to them? And that's really at the heart of getting to the truth of this thing, and to be able to understand it. So it's very,
Exactly.
very important that people like yourself share these things, what you know and what you've gone through. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. That's nice.
All right, everybody, we'll move over to the sessions area so that we can do question and answer with Donna. So see you over there.
Okay. Can I invite people to meet? Uh, I'm not sure. I think the people have to invite themselves because we each have the free will. But I could maybe put out the message, Croat. In fact, after I did my first talk, Croat disappeared for quite a while. And I got the sense that he was traveling around the world visiting other people who maybe had opened up to the possibilities. So you ask yourself, and also be aware for synchronicities, maybe seeing 1111 or things, picking up a book that might be speaking to you. But go ahead and ask yourself. And then I always do tell them. And it's interesting because there is so much love. I mean, if it was like a human relationship, I'd be jealous if other people wanted to have the same experience I do. But because their love is so unconditional and so massive, I'm excited when other people have the same experience.
Oh, hi.
Oh, nice to meet you.
So I've always been very curious about this. Having the type of contact with extraterrestrials that you do. Hold on, baby. With extraterrestrials that you do. Me being a remote viewer, I see it differently. I have to have a whole process before coming in contact with them. But how do I personalize this? How do I become more personalized? If you say open yourself up to the to it, and so every time I see or I hear about this, I'm like, well, how do I get that? I want to talk to them.
Yeah, it happened to me starting from when I was very little. So I think it must have been some kind of pre-birth thing or following a hereditary path. But they're telling me that they want to reach as many people as they can. So what worked best for me was keeping a journal and a pen right next to my bed, because for me, most of the experiences happen when I'm sleeping. And so first thing when you wake up, start writing. Even if you don't think you remember anything, you might just have the color purple in your head, or maybe a song running through your head. Just start writing that. And then as you write, more things will come through. And so by remembering it, and then that's like letting them know that you're setting an intention that you want to remember and you want to communicate. And it's kind of like a relationship with a person, you just kind of get to know them and keep on working with them and think of them and send them good thoughts. But to me, just keeping a journal next to the bed is the very best way to remember and to keep the communication going. Because then you look back 3 weeks later at something you wrote, and then it happened that day, because they experience time differently. So they know things are going to happen ahead of time. And that's like confirmation. Okay, they really were connecting with me. And just talk to them like you would a friend when you're doing the dishes. Just kind of have a conversation with them, and it's a gradual thing, but it will proceed just like a friendship or a relationship.
Hi, Donna.
Hi.
I had a question about if you had a recommendation for which Aura camera to purchase.
Oh, I really don't know. I don't own one myself. I just go to, like I said, it's a local metaphysical bookstore, and the lady comes twice a month. But you could go into, if there's a metaphysical store or bookstore, a place that sells crystals, things like that, and ask them. They might even sell those cameras or be able to tell you. Because I don't really know what brand either one of those were. I like the one from Florida better. I think it was a little more detailed. Probably these days you can buy them online. I never even looked into it. So that's a really good question.
Oh, hi. Okay. So I have these fainting spells that I definitely feel are a form of messages, but when they happen, I don't see. Like, and when I come out, it's almost like I don't even know what happened. And so someone has mentioned that that it's possible someone or something is trying to communicate with me. And so even then, I immediately do my best when I get back to try to write or to talk. And do you think that is that for me?
That could very well be, because like I said, they individualize connection with each person. So that might be the best way they can reach you through, your brain chemistry or your whatever, but your DNA. But yes, that could very well be, because they can reach, like I said, they can reach us better when our conscious mind is shut down, and then they go straight to our subconscious. So it sounds like that might be kind of what they're doing. They're shutting down your conscious mind and then getting straight into your subconscious. But now you have to be able to access it, maybe hypnosis. I've done some hypnosis, which helped me recall some things, or meditation. Sometimes that helps too. But yeah, I would say that could be what's happening. Okay, next question.
Hi, Donna.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi there. I don't know why you can't see me exactly. Let me see if I can turn it on. I'll just ask the question. Thank you so much. I resonated with everything that I kept saying yes, yes, yes throughout.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I wondered if you could speak a little bit more to your process of letting go of the fear from the direct contact. I feel that I sort of kind of go into forms of shock, I guess you could say. And even though I want the direct contact, just kind of working through that feeling. Could you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, it took years and years and years for me. And that was a large part of the reason why I wrote the book, because I wanted others to not have to go through years to get to that point. Actually, if you ask them, say, hey, you guys are scaring me. Can you approach me in a way that's not so scary? And then just keep reminding yourself that if you see something weird in your bedroom, it doesn't necessarily mean it's something bad or someone who's going to stab you or something. Try to remember that. And I think that's what helps me with sleeping with a dog, because I know the dog will go after a bad guy. So if they don't go after somebody, then it must be okay. And but asking them, I think if you ask them, they might approach you in a completely different way. Like I started asking them, try not to scare me so much. I was screaming so much. My neighbors could hear me, and I was afraid I was going to end up in a mental institution or something. And then they started peeking around the corner. They'd come and they'd peek around the corner, stacked heads on top of each other, trying to make me laugh. And I realized they're trying. They do try to use humor, because they know that humor puts you at ease a lot more. So just ask and then pay attention. Things that you might not even realize are alien contact could be a bird comes to your yard or something, and just be open to whatever you happen to see or experience. And it takes a while, but I think you'll get there.
Oh, hi. Can you hear me?
Yes. Hi, Rose.
Oh, hi. I was initially wanting to ask about the vaccine because there's a gentleman that I work with. I just wondered if they have spoken to you about it, because you're working with the ETs, if it's going to assist. Or I do believe in the love is the most powerful thing. I do understand that. And I'm very grateful for you disseminating out that. But did they talk to you at all about that in any way, shape, or form? If we can transmute that and make it more positive for us, with our intention, like you mentioned earlier?
That is such a good question, because I personally have been a little scared and have not taken the vaccine yet. But then I know a lot of people who have, and they've done well with it. And I have lupus. So with autoimmune disease that, my doctor isn't even any help. She says, well, it wasn't tested on people with autoimmune disease, but I still recommend it. And, it's just, we don't know who to trust or what to believe. So, you know what? It never even occurred to me to ask Crowd about that, or to ask for a suggestion about that, because there's good and bad with the vaccine, and none of us really know what source to trust or what to think about it. So I like that idea. I'll have to ask them, and maybe you can ask them too, and see if you get any answers also. But thank you. That's a great question.
Hi, Donna.
Hi.
We have a couple questions in the comments that I thought I'd ask you.
Okay.
We have one from Lance. He asks, can you guide people to meet aliens?
I don't have that much control over what they do. They kind of do whatever they're going to do, but I can make suggestions, and I can ask, and sometimes they answer. So yes, I can definitely tell them, if there's someone who wants to meet with you, please go and visit them and make yourself known in a non-threatening way. That's part of the reason they want me to speak out, is to teach others that it's okay to, if you see these beings, you're not crazy and it's not going to kill you. And they want me to spread the word that it's a good thing, and they want to meet more people. So that's a really good question. And I definitely will. I will put out the message that anyone who's calling on you and wants you to visit them, please go and do that. Okay, next one.
Oh, is it me again?
Yes, Rose, I see you. Your name again.
If I get some information, I'll try to find a way to send it to you. I do think I'm getting answers to that previous one, but I just wanted your input too. The other thing I wanted to ask you, I got, and that was, I do work very closely with the angelic realm, but I may not necessarily see them. And I'm just questioning whether your perception of the beings that you're working with may be perceived by others as angels.
Yes, I have thought that. I just got goosebumps. I have thought that. Because the love is just, it's so overwhelming and so unconditional, that I would have thought they were aliens if they didn't look like a praying mantis and have these big weird eyes. But I do believe that, people that, especially those that are very, raised in a very strong religious background, might interpret the same experiences as angels. I think they work together. The benevolent aliens do work together with various other levels of reality, because they're all interested in making Earth a better place and in helping us humans who are struggling right now, and the Earth is struggling right now, and they all have a common goal. So I do definitely think aliens and angels have a connection.
Okay, we have some more in the comments I was going to ask for you. This one is from Anna. It says, what is your best advice for inviting contact and being allowed to remember that it happened?
The remembering is so hard. That's what I was saying about keeping a journal by your bed, because even now I'll wake up and I'll think, oh, they were telling me these amazing universal truths and I can't remember any of it. But I do believe they're downloading into our brains, and when the time is right, we will remember. It will come up for us, whether we have a trigger word or experience, or we see something and it brings it to the forefront of our mind. But writing down when you first wake up or when you first get out of a meditation, just write whatever is in your mind, even if it's some song running through your head that doesn't seem connected. It probably is. You may not know it, but they do. So just start writing. And once you start writing, it seems to help the flow. And then you can write, just keep writing as much as you can. That's pretty much, and asking, setting the intention and asking that you remember more clearly and not be afraid.
Okay, we have a question from Dennis. It says, were you not taken back the first time you saw the praying mantis form?
Yes, yes, very much. I was 8 years old. I remember it very clearly. I woke up, something woke me up, and he was standing at the foot of my bed. So kind of like with the lady in Germany, he was standing as far away from me as he could, but he was an 8 foot tall praying mantis, and it just, I couldn't even breathe. I was so scared. And then when I was able to, then when he disappeared, I ran down the hall to my parents. Actually, I spent many of my teenage years sleeping on the floor in my parents' bedroom. And I remember my dad saying, there's something abnormal about a 16-year-old girl that has to sleep with her parents, you know, and it just, yes, it was very frightening. It took a long time for me to accept that he was okay. And in fact, it wasn't too long ago, just a few years ago, that he insisted that I hug him. And it's like, ooh, he's creepy. He's got creepy insect legs, but he insisted that I hug him. And when he did, I just felt so enveloped in so much love. And he kind of leaned over and said in my ear, the better to hug you with, my dear, because when I was a child, Little Red Riding Hood was my favorite story, and my mom would read it and do the voices, you know, the better to eat you with, my dear, what grandma, what big teeth you have. And he knew, you know, that convinced me that he knew that in my head, that story from Little Red Riding Hood was fun and reminded me of a happy time in my childhood. And so when he hugged me and said, the better to hug you with, my dear, that's when finally the last part of the fear evaporated. And I knew he's just love. He's just a big cuddly insect, but very, very, very loving and intelligent and humorous and peaceful. So, but yeah, I spent many years running around screaming and being scared to go to bed and screaming when I woke up. It takes, and again, I said that's why I wrote the book, hoping that other people reading my experience might get past their fear a lot sooner and not take them 30, 40 years like it took me.
Hi. Yes, I wonder, with your interactions with them, have they ever mentioned the possibility of them intervening in slowing climate change or preventing nuclear war?
The climate change they haven't really addressed, but the nuclear war for sure. Especially, I guess it was around the 80s, whenever was the last time that we were really concerned about it more than ever. Well, now it's not so good either, but I think it was about the 80s, and I was so scared. I had a little toddler, and I just didn't want the world to end up being blown up. And they assured me that they will never allow a nuclear war, never. And that's another thing that makes me think they might be in adjacent dimensions to us, because they're not, it's just flat out not going to be allowed. And there have been stories in the news where UFOs have supposedly disabled nuclear silos or stopped missile testing. I mean, they did a lot of nuclear testing and out in the desert and that, but they're not going to allow humans to destroy the earth with nuclear or in any way. So that would probably include climate change, but with nuclear missiles or nuclear tests or anything like that. They're definitely watching over all of that. And they have technology that can stop any of it in a heartbeat. They're letting us, we're like children playing with matches right now. They're kind of letting us try to learn our own lessons, because when you learn your own lessons, it's better than having someone just take the matches away from you. But if it gets to the point where it's at danger to the planet, they will intervene and they will stop it.
Okay, we have a question from Lisa. It says, can you speak to the significance of seeing the numbers 911?
Oh, I see those a lot, like on the clock, 911. I also see 1111, 333, 444. And when I first started seeing 911, that was maybe 2 years ago, it was a little concerning. I thought it was a warning, like, you know, something is going to happen, get ready, prepare. But now I see it more as just a wink or a synchronicity, the same way as you see 1111 or 333. Because I'm not really sensing any danger. I go through phases where I worry that we're going to go through a terrible time. But like I said in the very beginning, I think human consciousness had to reach a certain tipping point, and we finally reached it. And we're now progressing on to a better world, to the fifth dimension, to a new age. It's going to take a long time and some work, but I think we're past that danger period now. And maybe that's what the 911 was about too. It was like, you know, you guys better get your act together, or things are going to end up back in the dark ages. But I just kind of now see it as like a confirmation that, you know, they're here, they're watching, they're with us, and just keep doing what you're doing.
Well, hey.
Hi, Rose.
I just wanted to ask one more. It just popped in my head. I don't think I missed that with you. Did they bring you to a different dimensional Earth? Like, did they show you a different dimensional Earth, or have you had an opportunity to see that where we're functioning within the parameters of what we're striving to become?
No, and I really wish they would. They have taken me to different places that are like tunnels and caves that for many, many years, I really believed I went there. Like with my first husband, we went to Hawaii, and I really believed that we went to this, we rented a catamaran and went out by ourselves in the ocean and found a little island that had this beautiful white half moon beach. And we pulled the boat up there and went and found a cave inside a mountain and went and explored, and it was all lit up and had an underground river. And when I ran into him, when our grandson was born, we were reminiscing, and I said, remember that time we went to Hawaii and rented the catamaran? And he said, what? and I tried explaining it, and he had absolutely no memory. And suddenly it struck me right in my chest that that was not like real, as in this reality, but it was very real in another reality. So, and there's been other experiences like that where I've been places, mostly tunnels and caves and underground rivers, and they're always really beautiful. And I wake up and I'm sure I was there, or I remember it, and it's a very clear memory. But if I talk to the person I thought I went with, they'll say, no, that never happened. So I think they do. They have shown me glimpses of what the world could be, because those were always very beautiful and peaceful and happy times. But as far as the general Earth with the cities and everything, no, they haven't showed anything. Although I have a friend who has suggested that when you go to sleep at night, to visualize the Earth the way you want it to be. You know, instead of lying there worrying about paying bills or different things, clear your mind and visualize the Earth the way you'd like it to be. And I started doing that. And I think that then maybe they can help with that. Maybe they can help with sending images that they want us to see too. So but they haven't shown me a whole lot. And I think a lot of it is because we do have free will, and the future is fluid and time is fluid. So nothing is specific yet. We're all working together to build the future.
Okay, we have the question with Princess as far as an email or something to where she could reach out to you.
Oh, yes, I do have an email. I used to have a website and everything, and Facebook, but it wasn't really active. So I kind of just let them all go after a while. But I do have a email. It's abodanzi@gmail.com. It's ABODANZI. A, B is in boy, O, D is in dog, ANZI. And I got that word from speaking about the Greys, who don't have any personality. I was with a Grey one time on a roller coaster. You know, they send all kinds of crazy images to my head, and we're going up, 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 up. And just as it crested and started to go down, the little Grey put her hands up in the air and said, Abodanzi. So that's where I got that word. So abodanzi@gmail.com.
Okay, we have a question from Tracy. It's, are UFOs, UAPs, crafts, or light beings?
I'm not sure about that because, like I said, I haven't seen a whole lot of lights in the sky. I see them more one-on-one, and I have been aware of being inside a ship, but I don't know what it would look like so much on the outside. I do believe our military or worldwide militaries probably do have crafts that look like UFOs. So some of the sightings are just our own military, but they're all different too. Some of the ships I've been on they do have lights, lots of bright lights. Some are just pure white. And one in particular was filled with like a water. I guess it's like a liquid oxygen, because I was breathing this watery stuff. And when they brought me home, it actually landed inside my living room. And I was outside of it looking at it, and it looked like an aquarium, you know, with the creatures swimming around inside. And they used like a seaweed type thing to filter the water and add oxygen. But yet when I was in it, it was enormous. It was massive. But then when they brought me home, it shape-shifted and was very small in my living room. So they can shape-shift. They can pretty much appear any way they want to. So I do believe some of the ships in our skies are alien craft, but I think a lot of them are actually our own military or other countries' military.
Okay. Are you good to continue with a few more questions, or?
Sure, we can do a few more.
Okay. We have one from Ruth. It says, has Croat said anything to you about star seeds being uncomfortably, sensitive to Wi-Fi and electromagnetic waves around us?
Not so much specifically, but I do know that I'm extremely sensitive to chemicals, to other people's emotions, to even like when strong winds come around. And I try to protect myself as much as I can from electromagnetic energies and chemicals in foods. And I do believe I'm a star seed. And based on how my granddaughter sees me as a green being, I probably am. And I do believe that star seeds, because we're not native to this planet, a lot of the things on this planet are difficult for us, more difficult than for others. Crowds, too much chaos, too much loud music. So the best thing is just to listen to your own body and do what's comfortable for you. I have a little thing a friend gave me. It's called a Blue Shield, BLUSHIELD, that it's just a little thing, and you plug it in, and it's supposed to help protect you from electromagnetic energies. And I keep it next to my bed at night. I used to have abnormal blood work, my white blood cells. And since I've been using that, my white blood cells have normalized with my blood. And he's convinced that it was because of the Blue Shield. So I know that we are extra sensitive to these. And I do believe the alien visitors are aware of it too. So always ask them. Like they said, you have to ask. So, ask them, can you please help me with this? Because it's really bothering me. And also visualization is really powerful. Visualize a bubble around yourself, like a pure white bubble, kind of like that aura picture of my dog, a white bubble all around you and protecting you and shielding you from anything, negative emotions, electromagnetic energies, 5G, anything that you might, cigarette smoke, anything that might bother you, because I do believe starseeds are much more sensitive than those that are native to Earth.
Okay, we have a question from D. Burkall. Were you saying that the cloud ships were crafts that appear as clouds or living entities that appears as clouds or something else?
Oh, the cloud ships. I believe, and my sister who sees them believes that they're actual ships that are hiding behind the clouds or within the clouds, actual ships, not the clouds themselves. And that they do have entities that are on board. And it's the entities that call to her and the entities that kind of send that back and forth communication and that sense of love to her. And they just kind of hide in the clouds. And I don't know if they're very playful. So it could be just a playfulness. It could be a way so that only she sees them and the other people in the vicinity don't. It could be because that's what she expects to see. But I believe they're actual ships and they actually have beings on board them, and they kind of hide or disguise themselves amongst the clouds, or they create the clouds.
Okay, we have a question from Rhonda. It says, how do you help your loved ones know you are sane?
Good one. My family, it wasn't until my book came out when I was in my late 50s that I got phone calls from my sister, my dad, my daughter, who's now an adult, apologizing, saying, we had no idea what you were going through, because I didn't really talk about it. They knew, my sister knew I would wake up screaming and running down the hall. And like I said, my dad thought there was something psychologically wrong with me. But I never got into details. I never said why I was screaming. I just said, I'm seeing monsters, because I knew on some level that I didn't want to get locked up in a mental hospital. And of course, now the world is a lot more receptive to it. But when my book first came out, I was a little nervous because my son-in-law is Catholic, pretty strict Catholic. His parents are very strict Catholic. They all read the book and they all were very accepting and open. They might behind my back say, well, she's a little weirdo, but nobody's, withdrawn their friendship or support or love from me. So just kind of test the waters. Don't like go full on, hey, I was on an alien ship last night and they told me this and this, because, that might be a little too much for some people to accept. But you could start out, gradually just kind of feeling it out. I think I saw an alien in my dreams last night and it felt really real. And now I have this weird bruise on my arm. What do you think? You think it was an alien that came and took me? And you might find that there are a lot of people. That's what shocked me. There are a lot of people that are walking around either thinking they're crazy or thinking they're the only ones, but afraid to talk to anybody else about it. So if you open that door, open that gate, and you're safe to talk to, you might be surprised. Someone you would least expect might, pull you aside and say, hey, I saw a UFO last year and it did this and this, So sometimes you have to be the one to open the conversation. But yeah, I was genuinely afraid of being locked up. Like I said, these days, it's a lot more accepted to be able to talk about it. But I still am very careful, and I don't talk about it with my grandchildren, which is why it was such a shocker that my granddaughter drew me as an alien, because we're very careful to keep these kids' lives as normal as possible, But kids especially, they're open to these things. They see things and know things that we don't realize. And I think they don't talk about it because they know it might upset us. So especially if you have young children you can talk to, just kind of, maybe somehow talk about it in a non-threatening way. Ask them a question about it so that they talk about it. But good luck with that. It does get easier the more you talk about it. And you may be known as the family weirdo, but they'll probably love you anyway.
Okay, we have a question from Tracy. It says, are you RH negative alien DNA?
No, I wish I was. I've heard that the RH negative has a lot to do with it. I'm actually A positive. And I actually did have a DNA thing done through 23andMe a few years ago as part of a lupus study, kind of hoping that they'd say there was some DNA that they couldn't recognize or something, but they were able to recognize it all. So no, I don't fit into that category. Although I do have, in my ancestry, I have a lot of what would be called warrior people, Scottish Highlanders, MacGregor clan, and Vikings. A lot of, well, not a lot. I have 18% Swedish and Danish Viking blood, and people who have traditionally been known to be kind of fighters and warriors. So I'm kind of proud of that.
Hi. It just popped up again. I keep getting it. Hi. When you were a child, before you had the dreams, did you kind of come in knowing you came to assist? Did you have a knowing, but you didn't necessarily know exactly what it was?
Yeah, you could kind of say it that way. Because my earliest night terror, I was 6 years old, but my mom said I would wake up screaming as early as 4 years old. So it was obviously something I came in knowing I was going to have. And yeah, it always just felt like I knew I was a little different. And what's funny is my maiden name was Marsh, and all through school, the kids would call me Donna Martian. I was always just a little weird, a little not quite like everybody else. And they called my sister Marshmallow, but they called me Martian, so. But yeah, I always kind of knew that something was different, or that I had some kind of purpose, that I just wasn't like other people. I thought I was adopted. I felt like our German friend said, I felt homesick, and I still do sometimes. I still feel homesick for a place I don't really know where it is, but like I belong somewhere else. So I think those of us that know, we do know on some level that there's something different.
Okay, we have 2 more questions. I have here one from Helen. It says, I was at Mount Shasta, so excited to see her, and I said, hello, beautiful. A few minutes later, I noticed puffs of cloud coming out then. It looked like capital H, then capital I. By the time I got my camera, the letters spread, but I can still see an H and an I that other people can see. Can they communicate like this?
Wow, that is awesome. I would love to go to Mount Shasta. I absolutely believe that that's real and that happened, and that mountains, in fact, I read a lot about Native American spirituality. I really connect with what they, in fact, I was so disappointed when my DNA didn't show any Native American, because I so relate to their beliefs that mountains have spirits, rivers have spirits, trees have spirits. In fact, there's a mountain, I live in Ventura, which is just over a small mountain range towards Los Angeles. And there's this beautiful mountain called the Conejo Grade. There's a grade that you have to drive up to get over the hill. And it's this beautiful mountain, and I've always felt a connection to it. And one time when I was driving alone on the grade, I kind of looked over and I just said, I love you. And I got such a sense of love from this mountain. And it's not even a really big mountain. I mean, nothing like Mount Shasta. But yeah, I definitely believe that mountains have a spirit, rivers have a spirit, that storms, thunderstorms seem to have a personality, that it's all alive. It's all connected, like in that etheric flow that they were telling us about. We're all connected. And it's interesting that the letters hi disappeared before you could get a picture. It's like people say, well, if you're really seeing aliens, why don't you get a picture? Everybody's got their phone with them now. But it just doesn't work that way. We're not meant to photograph these things yet. I think a time will come when we will be able to, and then we'll be able to say, see, see, it's really happening. But for right now, we have to go on our faith and trust our instincts. But yeah, I believe that absolutely happened. And Mount Shasta is a well-known spiritual place.
Okay, we have a question from Lance. It says, do you know how many aliens are here on Earth? Thousands, millions, etc.
Ooh, I don't know, but I would say at least thousands, if not millions, because they have also told me that they can come in other forms. They don't have to. Well, first of all, there's those like Croat who are invisible to our eyes, and then there are those who have been born into human bodies to experience life on Earth and to be here during this shift, and then there are even some, they have told me they can come in as dogs. I mean, how better to observe humanity than to be the family dog, right? To observe the inner workings of a human family. So they can come as dogs and cats and all kinds of things. So probably it would be more like millions if you consider all of them.
That was our last question for you, and we thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you so much. I really appreciate all the support and the love and people being supportive and not saying, hey, you're crazy. So it's been nice. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donna.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
I just wanted to come in and transition us to the next thing. I don't, besides the million questions that are going through my head, I don't, have to write.
Okay.
Donna, thank you again for sharing your experience, and it's just amazing stuff. It just really is. So.
Thank you. Thank you for, I'm so excited that everyone is so open-minded and positive about it.
Yeah, things have changed over the years, and this is a much more interesting and fun time to be investigating such things, and I'm very thankful after all these years to still be involved in all this in some way. So thank you for being here.
Okay, well, thank you.
All right, guys, we got about 6 minutes or so before our next speaker, so we'll have a tiny little break in there and see you soon.
Okay, enjoy the conference, everyone. Bye-bye.